What up, friends? Welcome back to the Diet Diaries. Today's episode is airing on Monday, July 14th. Recording on Monday, July 7th. Between now and when this airs, I'll have turned 45, which is crazy. That feels like a bit of a weird number to me, only because, I don't know, it just feels weird. I think when I turn 50, it's going to be very weird. I don't look at myself and think of myself as being in my mid 40s. In my head, I'm like, I don't know, 28, 29, 30 maybe, which is kind of cool. And I guess I don't care that much. I think it's one of those things when you start to think about it too hard, it's like, it starts to like really fuck with you. So I'm just going to like not spend too much time thinking about it because like, what does it really mean? Right? It means what we are told to make it mean. It means what society has told us being 50 looks like. Like I always think about, if you guys know the movie Father of the Bride, Steve Martin and Diane Keaton in that movie were supposed to be in like their early to mid 40s, like basically my age. And if you look at them now, they have them dressed in this very like conservative sort of like fuddy-duddy way that gave off a very old vibe feeling. And that's like what I grew up with, thinking like, oh, that's what it means to be like in your 40s or 50s. And now I'm here, like I dress the same as I did. I have like, I think a better and more like confident sense of style, but I wear cutoff shorts and I wear things that are considered like, quote, like young. And I don't dress the way I was always told growing up that like a 45-year-old woman would dress. And I think that's the part that gets really interesting. Is like, well, what does it mean? It means what we've been told that it means, which is arbitrary and actually kind of meaningless. Like we get to decide what it means. So anyway, it's not what this episode is about. That really just kind of came out of nowhere. What I wanted to talk about today was cravings. I've been talking about this a little bit on social media and wanted to do kind of a dedicated podcast episode, but I'm going to keep it short, right? Cravings is kind of like a really big topic. I'm not going to talk about everything related to cravings. I'm going to talk about kind of a specific, I think, kind of point of view that I have around cravings that is not a point of view that a lot of people have or that you will hear very often. And I'm not saying this for the sake of just being different to be different and to make a splash. I'm saying this because I think that there is a very important and different way into dealing with cravings. And I did a post about this recently, and I'll try to link it in the show notes. But that is around this idea that cravings are not a problem to be fixed. Cravings are information that are telling us something. And if we can start to see them as information, then we can start to work backwards and figure out, what is this trying to tell me, right? Because typically what we do when we get a craving is we want to get rid of it. Or there's this like Conquer Cravings. And I did a workshop several years ago called Conquer Cravings, right? So if I'm not evolving as a coach, then like I have no business doing this work. So I'm happy to admit, full disclosure, that I did that. But we want to like confront cravings. We want to get rid of cravings. We want to like basically get rid of them. Cravings are bad. They are a problem. They need to be dealt with. They need to be gotten rid of. We want to live in a world where we don't have cravings, because cravings are a problem that need to be fixed. And again, like that, I think is a very misguided approach that actually completely contradicts what it means to like live and exist in a human body. And so if we start to give ourselves a little bit of space, notice the urge to say, oh my God, I'm having a craving for chocolate every day, and wanting to get rid of that and wanting to fix it by just saying, okay, well, I'm not going to keep chocolate in the house. I'm just never going to eat chocolate and then I won't crave it. Look at it as, what is that trying to tell me? What can I learn from this? Right? And so a really simple way to do that is to start to work backwards, right? If you were getting a craving for chocolate every day at 3:00, let's start to work backwards. What was the last thing you ate before you got that craving? What were you doing? What was happening? What were the circumstances in which you ate that food? And continue to work backwards again, right? So let's say if that's 3:00, did you eat something at 1:00? Did you eat something at noon? What was it? Where was it? What did you eat? How did you feel? What were the circumstances? Were you sitting quietly at your kitchen table with no distractions, eating a meal with lots of protein and veggies and a carb and fully enjoying it? Or were you scarfing down half of a sandwich in between like a Zoom call, finishing an email, and getting a phone call from your kids' camp that they're sick and you have to come pick them up early? Probably more like the latter, right? Those were a little bit of like the two extremes. And so if we start to pay attention to what happens when we work backwards, then we start to see, well, what is kind of driving that craving? What's creating it? And then I can start to address it and sometimes I hate this language, but like, what's like the root cause of the craving, right? And again, not that the craving is a problem. The craving is telling us something. It's giving us information. It's giving me information that I maybe didn't enjoy my lunch, that I didn't eat enough for lunch, that I didn't even eat enough of filling foods, right? That I ate something, but I rushed through it. And so it totally wasn't enjoyable. And now I'm like looking for something that like feels good. Maybe it's telling me that I'm really stressed out and overwhelmed, right? And eating that food that I'm craving would make me feel better in the moment. So I think this is a really, really helpful tactic to start to use, right? Notice your instant gut reaction, that labeling, this is a problem, this is bad. If I eat this thing, I'm not going to be able to stop and I need to just like willpower my way through it. Notice that happen. That's normal. That's okay. And then instead of reacting or following through on that, can you pause and say, okay, hold on a second. What happens if I work backwards? What has led up to this? It'll just take you 2 minutes to do that, not even. What has led up to this today? And if I'm noticing this same craving happening on repeats around the same time or for the same food, what are the patterns? Can I kind of work backwards each day that happens? And can I start to see, are there similarities? Are there overlaps? Are there kind of actions or behaviors or circumstances that are causing this? And can I start to address things from there and see if that impacts the craving, right? Having cravings, wanting to have something for dessert, wanting to have a piece of cake or your favorite ice cream or a piece of chocolate after a meal is a normal part of living in a human body. It is not a problem. It's not something that needs to be fixed. It's not something you need to get rid of. It is as normal as feeling tired, as feeling hungry, as feeling thirsty, as feeling stressed out, as any of the feelings that we get in a body. Having a craving for a food is as normal as those. But kind of with any sort of human experience, when it starts to move into a more extreme place, that's when it becomes a problem, right? When this craving is happening with a tremendous amount of frequency or a tremendous amount of intensity, or both frequency and intensity, right? Then it's like, okay, well, this is taking something that feels normal and it's really ramping it up to a place where now it's not really enjoyable. It's not really feeling, quote, normal. It's feeling problematic. It's feeling stressful. It's taking up a lot of brain space. It's creating a lot of noise in my head. It's feeling really stressful. And so it's like normalizing and acknowledging and letting a craving exist as part of being in a human body, and maybe even like a cool part of being in a human body. Like, oh, I get to have a desire for something that tastes really good that I love, and then I get to eat it and fulfill that. It's actually a really cool part of being human. Like other living creatures, to speak broadly, don't really do that, don't really eat for pleasure, from what I understand, in the way that humans do, right? Eating for pleasure and for joy is a very unique part of being human. And it's a wonderful part of being human. I think that some of us think, oh, it'd be so great if I could just eat like for fuel and then not enjoy food, because then you think, oh, I'd never gain weight and I'd always be thin, and all these thoughts that we have. Except we've evolved this way for a reason, to enjoy food and to get pleasure out of being food. And it would be a pretty kind of miserable life if we didn't get pleasure out of these things. So like think about like the smells and the sights, and not just the taste, the sound of food and the associations you have with food and the memories and the experiences, right? I'm a little bit going off on a bit of a tangent, but there's so many wonderful things that go along with the joy of eating food, and having a craving for a food and eating it and fulfilling that kind of desire with this thing you really want and love is a really wonderful experience. Now, again, if you're getting that all the time and you find yourself fulfilling that urge with foods you don't actually like, or you feel really out of control around them, or it's happening all the time and taking up a lot of space in your brain, again, I'm repeating myself, right? That's when it becomes too much, too far. No different than if you feel this compulsion to only ever eat healthy foods all the time, right? Or you will only feel like I can only have like grilled chicken and rice and broccoli, right? That's the only thing that I feel comfortable eating, right? That becomes a problem. That takes a very nutritious food and it becomes an issue. And how do I work backwards from that, right? Separate thing. But all I'm saying is that when things become extremes, that's when they become problems. And so a craving in and of itself is not a problem. When it becomes all the time, frequent in terms of frequency and consistent, and not consistency, frequency and intensity, that's when it becomes something that we need to address. And again, we can start to address that by working backwards. What's the last thing I did or ate? What was my experience? Why did I eat it? How did I eat it? How did I feel? Then can I work backwards from that and start to put together the pieces of the puzzle? This is kind of what we do in the food behavior blueprint, right? You start to journal your food, not just what you ate, what, why, when, where, how, and why. I think I said why. And you start to create the storyline. You start to connect the dots. So if you're having a craving every day at 4:00, it's going to be pretty clear why that's happening, because you're going to be able to see the pieces of that coming together over the course of the day or over the course of several days. This is something that you can start to kind of pay attention and do on your own. But really the idea of this is starting to introduce this concept of noticing the gut reaction or the instant reaction to want to problematize cravings and get rid of them. And can we start to look at them with a little bit more curiosity, start to work backwards, start to see that cravings maybe are actually can be a good experience. Because the more we problematize things, the harder we make it for ourselves. We create a lot more urgency around things and more panic, and that never leads to long-term effective solutions. It leads us to short-term quick fixes. So that's what I got for you today. A nice short episode. Love short episodes all the time. If you've got a request for an episode or you're looking for support with something, send me an email or a DM. I'm happy to do an episode on that. Love hearing from you guys. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being here. And actually, I should mention, I'm a little unsure of the podcast schedule for the next couple of weeks because I'm going to be traveling. So there are probably going to be definitely one, maybe 2 Mondays where there is not a new episode. And then it'll pick back up like mid-August. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but just giving you a heads up that that is coming at the time of this recording. I haven't fully figured it out. But if you don't see a new episode for 1 or 2 Mondays in the next few weeks, that's why. All good. I will be back. Regular schedule, by mid-August. So that's all. See you soon.